Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another movie review. This time we're going to be talking about Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines.
Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel.
Hey, I'm Sylvia Saska.
And I'm Jen Saska.
And we're the Saska Sisters. Get a part of this. Subscribe the little butt down there. Look.
And since discussing the previous Terminator films on my channel some time ago, the first film I talked about in a QMR video, the second in a video on its own. Here we are at Terminator 3. Of course, I also did a video on Genesis a few years ago, and Dark Fate back when it came out, if you guys want to watch any of those. But since then, I've periodically been going through them one by one again, getting to the movies I haven't gotten to for whatever reason, as I rewatch them again with my fiance. And here we are at T3, Terminator 3. Came out in 2003. And it was not directed by James Cameron, of course. It was directed by Jonathan Mostow. Arnold Schwarzenegger. This one is kind of stuck in development for a good few years, actually. Arnold was not really too enthusiastic on doing the project himself. In fact, he refused to sign on unless James Cameron did. It wasn't until an apparent conversation between the two where Cameron basically told him to take the money and run. But also because Cameron has said it's as much Arnold Schwarzenegger's character as it is his. So he basically gave him his blessing to, do it if he wanted to, but they both had an understanding of what kind of project this was, as in not so much a project, but really more of a cash grab. And I think this is Arnold's last starring role before he became governor of California. I think he had some other acting work just before that too, but I think this is his last lead role anyway. But yeah, so going off of IMDb, it's about a machine from a post-apocalyptic future that travels back in time to protect a man and a woman from an advanced robotic assassin to ensure they both survive a nuclear attack. And yeah, that's the basic way to put it, I guess, but pretty much sums it up, without being too specific. Terminator 3 is an interesting movie for me. In no way, shape, or form is it really, measuring up to, Judgment Day, of course. I'm not going to say it does, and obviously it's very different from, the first Terminator film, as 2 was. So I'm not saying it's better than either of those. I don't know, man. I mean, I've never had major issues with it. I mean, it plays on TV quite a bit, especially a few years ago. I'd watch it whenever, or at least watch a good chunk of it whenever it would play on TV, whether it's FX or, I don't know, wherever it be, TNT or something, I don't know. And I've always found it, decent, solid, or enjoyable anyway. It's not, it's obviously not done with the finesse of James Cameron, and the action scenes aren't as standout, they're not quite as signature. Although I do think there is a decent chase sequence, around the first quarter of the movie when they're driving through the town, and the TX, is on that big truck, crane machine sort of thing. Actually, I think that's a pretty fun sequence, but obviously, spun off of T2 and having a major vehicle chase like that. But that one worked fine. It's probably one of the better scenes in this movie too. And again, the action is a bit clunkier than it maybe should have been at the time. Coming out about a decade after the second one, it should have been somehow even better, but it wasn't. It's not too bad, though. I mean, you still have Arnold Schwarzenegger playing, yes, this new Terminator, but he has the same composure and, presence as he always brings to the role. So, again, Arnie absolutely nails it. Shocker. If you guys didn't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger is my all-time favorite action hero and one of my all-time favorite actors. So it's hard for me not to enjoy this to some extent anyway. As with any of the movies with him in it, even Dark Fate and Genesis. Just doing where to start next. I mean, then you have Kristanna Loken as a TX, our Terminator coming after John Connor in this one. Basically, she's like the T-1000 again, except she basically has some, Mega Man, sort of blaster or whatever. But I did not mind Kristanna Loken in this movie. Obviously, a lot of people look at her for her physical attributes, and that's undeniably so, but I've seen her in some other roles as well, and she's quite a good actress, given the right type of thing. And of course in this, she's a Terminator, so she doesn't necessarily have to show a lot of expression, but I think they could have chosen a far worse actress to bring a physical threat as well, with them going the female Terminator route. I don't know, I liked her quite a bit. I know she actually did some, training to add some more muscle to her body, and I think she even did some martial arts training as well, from what I understand. So it definitely could have been worse, although I do think they could have gone more creative, following it up from the T-1000 of all villains. But then again, I do enjoy her more than the, whatever they called Gabriel Luna in Dark Fate. Which was basically just like one extra feature and then basically the same as we've always gotten. But I don't know. Man. I guess my biggest issue is probably our human characters. I mean, I think Nick Stahl, he was likable enough. He reminded me of like a Shia LaBeouf type at the time, like especially as Shia LaBeouf would be in the Transformers movies maybe or something, which were obviously a few years after this. I guess they were going to get Edward Furlong at first, but that was around when Furlong, I guess, was having some of his substance issues and stuff like that, so they couldn't really do much else but recast. Nick Stahl is likable, but I did find him kind of dull and not really. Just didn't feel like John Connor to me, nearing his 30s or whatever. Then you had Claire Danes, who went on to be in a that well-received show on HBO called Homeland. And they were going to have Linda Hamilton make an appearance in this as well, but she had refused because it was a small role, so I basically wrote her off as having died from leukemia. So maybe, if anything, they were going to have her on her deathbed or something, which still might have been decent, but I understand her not doing it. I do like the scene at the cemetery where they find that she left a bunch of weapons in her casket. That was kind of cool, and get the shot of Arnold carrying it on his shoulder and firing off the big Gatling gun or whatever it is. I also do quite like the ending as well. I mean, again, with as much as I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, any of like the climactic Terminator scenes I think are quite enjoyable to me, and they get me. So when he uses his power battery to kind of destroying the TX and likely himself as well. It still, feels kind of cool and epic in its own way, I guess. So again, Arnold Schwarzenegger still bringing it, with the automatic way about him. And then I don't mind the ending in the bunker. It's a bit, I don't know if I'll say grim, but a bit more sort of gloomy way to leave it off, I guess. But John Connor possibly, starting his resistance there, and they all start kind of listening to him, maybe out of coincidence, sure, but that's how life works sometimes. So I don't think Terminator 3 is a bad film. It does lose most of what made Terminator 2 as special of a movie as it is. You pretty much lose the dynamic they built between the Terminator and John Connor in this. There's a couple references back to it, but they never have the Terminator somehow get those memories or anything from the other model, which realistically makes sense that he wouldn't. But the fact still is that there's just not as much of a dynamic there, so it's not quite as engaging, and you're not quite as invested. There is a video game tie-in they did of this. They did a couple of them. But there's one called Terminator 3, The Redemption, or something like that, I think, which actually weaves between their version of events in the movie and actually part of it takes place after Terminator 3 as well. And you get to see a future, I think, where John Connor actually reinstills a battery or chip into what's left of this Terminator's exoskeleton or skull or something. Then the Terminator is able to fight alongside John Connor at the end in the future war, which is kind of fucking awesome. I mean, because you hear with this Terminator, he's actually the one who killed John Connor, and then it was Claire Danes' character in the future that sends him back, and then they reversed it, of course, and John is still alive again. So that's pretty cool. I feel like the movie itself should have gone for something like that, like a past and present sort of thing. I think that would give it more of a full package. And the fact that we've never really gotten the future war full on besides what Salvation gave us, but so yeah, again, I don't think Terminator 3 is a bad film. It's definitely just alright. It's not great, but I do think it's all around more enjoyable for me anyway than Dark Fate was. Although I do think Schwarzenegger again gave a good performance in that, as did Linda Hamilton. But as an overall package, I do find this one a bit more entertaining. I haven't seen Genesis in a while. In fact, I don't remember too much about that one. I would put this one above that one for now as well, until I do rewatch it eventually within the next month or so. We'll see. And it's just kind of weird to compare to Salvation. I've probably seen that one the least out of any of them. But just for Arnold being in this one, I'd probably put this over it as well. But yeah, then I guess a lot about Terminator 3. Do you have a bit more warmed up thoughts this one like I do, or at least sort of middle of the road, thinking it's alright, but not like, an abomination? Do you prefer it over some of the very latest ones, or is it somehow still the worst for you? Let me know you guys' thought. If I had to rate this, I'd give it probably like an 80-81%, somewhere in there. It does have its issues like I've covered. It doesn't do a whole lot new. And it was the start of, basically the cash grabs and, kind of redoing itself, within the story with every subsequent Terminator film. But, it is what it is, and let me know how you look back on it. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.